You don't have to tell me that The Flash is one of the biggest bombs of the year, reportedly losing Warner Bros. $200 million. You don't have to tell me about the horrible PS3 CGI made by the overworked and underpaid artists.
Who the fuck is Christopher Columbus? If he would've came to my block, talking about he discovered my track, his ass would've probably got shot. How the fuck I'm African American? Bitch, I'm American terrorist. 5th grade smarter than my parents. Grandma couldn't help with algebra. Grandma like, what the fuck is algebra? She like, that's a goddamn shame. Them people gon' keep making up shit, trying to keep you in the same grade. They trying to hide shit in a book. I was in jail reading books. OG teach me about real estate. Every landlord I know a crackhead. I'm in the hood with the slum love. Grandma Jehovah Witness, no Christian.
You don't have to tell me about the horrible looking bad faith cameos. I know. But I'm gonna keep it honest with you. The Flash really isn't that bad. It has pretty good bones, the structure's there, it has some pretty good ideas, but it just lacks focus and the CGI really holds it back. I didn't love the movie, but I was def entertained all the way through. I would have to give it probably a 5.56, but the biggest takeaway I got from this movie wasn't that it was slightly above mid, or the fact that it shouldn't have even been made, considering the main actor's heinous crimes, which in reality, that's the biggest thing. But for the sake of this video, it actually has some pretty decent Batman stuff. Andy Muschietti, the director of The Flash, got confirmed a while back to be the director of Brave and the Bold, the new Batman movie. In my DC Slate reaction video, I said that The Brave and the Bold was my most anticipated movie on the DCU slate. Go check that video out if you want to hear why and my thoughts on the other future DCU projects. But I'll just give you the short reason on why Brave and the Bold is my most anticipated DCU movie. Batman's a badass. Do I really need to say more? Slight spoiler warning for The Flash, for anyone who cares, but I'm just gonna go over the Batman sections, which to me, are probably the best part of the movie. The Batman action in this is probably some of the best live action Batman stuff that I've ever seen. CGI problems aside, both Batman in this movie have some really great choreographed action, and it showcases their gadgets and their versatility with them really well. Don't get it twisted though, I'm not saying the other Batman movies don't have Batman using his gadgets or well choreographed action, but they just have Batman move pretty slow. And what I mean by slow in this instance is just like regular human speed. Like when I think of Batman fighting, I think of the Arkham games. Obviously not as exaggerated in those games, because them bitches just have Batman flying around the room like his fist is a damn homing missile. But just Batman putting belt to ass, interweaving his gadgets seamlessly into his fighting style. Just going fucking berserk on his enemies is what I envision. The Nolan movies had Batman be pretty versatile with his gadgets, but the fighting was just so slow and boring. Most of the fights have a bunch of quick cuts, so it's just hard to follow the choreography sometimes. When I watch those movies, I don't really get excited about the action scenes, except when he fights Bane. But their fights feel like a deadly game of chess, so the slower paced fighting works. Again, don't get me wrong, there's still some more shining moments action-wise besides the Bane fight, but overall though, the action just doesn't do it for me. But the action isn't really why I like those movies so much, so it's really not a huge deal. On the other hand, Reeves' Batman picks up the tempo a little bit. He still fights pretty slow, but the fights are just better choreographed in my opinion. And on top of that, his version is still early in his career, so he doesn't have all the tech that a vet Batman would have. But I don't think the universe he's building is gonna have his Batman really have a lot of flashy tech that Batman usually has on him. Batman moving and fighting at a more realistic, slower pace works for the Nolan and Reeves movies because they're approaching it with like a more realistic take on the character. So it's not really a problem when I watch those movies. But that's where Zack Snyder's Batman comes in. Besides his characterization, I think Zack set the gold standard for how a live action Batman fights and interweaves his gadgets and his style. I think it shouldn't be as aggressive, but that just goes in more in line with his characterization. But the speed, intensity, and flow of the Snyderverse Batman is on point. While not really liking the universe he built as a whole, I'll always give praise to Zack for his aesthetic and some of the elements that he gave to his Batman. The reason why I like Batman's action in The Flash so much is because you could feel Zack's influence bleed into Andy Muschietti's Batman. And yeah, of course you would want Ben Affleck's Batman to feel similar to how he does in the Snyderverse, but that movement and finesse bleeds into Keaton's Batman, even though he's a little older. So that just makes me even more hyped for DCU's Batman, because it seems like Andy has been influenced by Zack for his Batman action-wise, which is great. I'll just start with Ben's Batman, since he really only has one action sequence. His motorcycle chase is so fun. The way he's just weaving in and out of traffic with his cool-ass bike, just to pull in gadget after gadget, pulling out a battering ram to smash through cars, shooting out spike strips from his bike, and raising a shield to block incoming bullets. I just love how flossed out his bike is with cool gadgets. But then the motorcycle portion of the chase ends with Batman's bike being destroyed by a propane truck. But he bursts out of the flames like a fucking badass, just twirling and gliding while grappling onto the truck. This is the part where the CGI gets really bad. It was so-so during the whole chase, but this sequence, it just straight up looks like a video game. But even with it being bad, I just love the direction of the scene. Batman being pulled across the highway by the truck, getting shifty, jumping off of cars, literally dodging them by the skin of his teeth. Zack has always done good action with Batman, but Andy just perfectly expands on that. Ben's Batman really didn't have any standout hand-to-hand combat moments. The actual good hand-to-hand combat is surprisingly with Michael Keaton's Batman. I was happy with how Andy handled Ben's Batman's action, keeping it high octane, nuts to butts, all the shits. But he was really just keeping him in line with how he is in the Snyderverse, which is expected. So the thing that really gives me the faith in Andy's Batman is how he handles Keaton. I haven't seen the old Keaton movies all the way through. They were before my time. I just really saw bits and pieces on TV here and there. But one thing I can definitely say about them is the action is very, how do I put this, of its time. I'm not saying it's trash or badly choreographed, but it's just about as good as a comic book movie made in the late 80s and 90s is gonna get. It's just kind of stiff. I really wasn't expecting his action to be anywhere close to what it was before, but I didn't expect to enjoy it this much. Andy basically had a clean slate to put his own spin on Keaton's fighting style and movement. You know, to translate his character to more something appealing for the modern day, but I loved every second of it. I'm sure that Keaton's Batman is not going to be a one-to-one translation to how Andy's Batman's going to be, but I think this is a good taste of what he's capable of. I think everything about Keaton's Batman is perfect action-wise. Like I mentioned earlier, Keaton's Batman is an older one. When we first see his character, he's a retired old hermit. So it was really surprising to see how he was still super shifty and agile. But it's Batman, so it's to be expected that he never loses his edge. He's still easily able to flip around and fight the two berries off. But why I like this somewhat comedic action scene so much, besides how swift Keaton's Batman is moving, it's the way he's using his environment to fight off the two berries. Using a pan, rolling pin, a pizza cutter as projectiles like his batarangs, using a broom as a staff, flipping over and launching off of countertops to get the upper hand. I just like how this short sequence shows how an old, out of practice Batman is still very formidable out of his suit. But when he's back in the suit, he's even more of a dog. His first action scene actually suited up is so well choreographed, gliding in and using that momentum to swoop a guy up off the ground and just brutally slam him down, using his cape to block bullets, throwing his batarangs with perfect accuracy, ricocheting them off of stuff and hitting enemies in the head like he's fucking Captain America. Using his grappling hook to reel guys in and hit him with a bone-shattering clothesline. I just love how he has this Arkham game finesse to him. Like when he's fighting the big Kryptonian soldier. He flies in, landing on his back. This is a Kryptonian, so he's clearly outmatched power-wise. So he's just using his size and speed to get the advantage of this bigger and slower enemy. Using his grappling hook to quickly swing around him, placing bombs on the Kryptonian's body. Eventually sticking one to his head, blowing it up and seemingly taking him down. It was just so fun seeing Batman move like this in live action. It really gave me Arkham vibes, like when you fight those big grunts and you like swing around their back and like have them hit all the other enemies. But it also kind of reminded me of the Amazing Spider-Man when he's like crawling around the lizard and like wrapping him up like an actual spider. But the moment is pretty short-lived. He grabs Batman and just fucking slams him to the ground, breaking like every bone in his body, and he just dies. Big Kryptonian, he just gets back up. He was literally shown earlier to take a missile to the fucking face, so I don't think a bomb to the back of his head is gonna do anything. But A for effort, B-man. But besides Keaton's hand-to-hand action, I just really love his gadgets and the Batwing. Little stuff like pulling out a super-powered blowtorch to cut a grate and make a quick escape. And a little tape measurer, so he can make some quick calculations so he knows what level to set his bomb to. So he can use his bomb as a rocket to propel himself up without blowing himself up to smithereens. I especially like this moment because it's a little comedic with how he pulls out his little tape measure, because of course Batman has a fucking tape measure equipped to his belt.
How much do you weigh?
180 each plus her 440.
But it's also a cool moment showcasing Batman's on-the-fly thinking with his gadgets that make him so great. But dog, I love the Batwing so much in this movie. I know it's in the old Keaton movies, but I just love the fact that it's actually shaped like a bat. It's not this weird beetle thing in the Nolan movies. It's not a stingray looking thing in the Snyder films. It's just so cool seeing a version that child me is so used to seeing in animation and the toys I grew up with. But besides its design, I just love everything it could do. It does this rotating thing where the whole plane spins around to dodge missiles and whatnot, but while it's spinning, the cockpit where Batman is piloting is completely stabilized. So it creates this kind of trippy effect where everything around him's spinning, but he's just in the same spot. But besides that and his standard missiles and machine guns, he pulls out this like double harpoon thing. He's flying and he has 2 enemy ships on either side of him. He shoots the double harpoon thing at both ships, connecting them. Then he flies towards a big ass rock and making the line get caught in between the rock, causing the 2 Kryptonian ships to smash together. Again, just showing Batman's quick on the fly thinking when he's outmatched. And just showing how shifty he can get in the Batwing is so smooth. But on a more technical level, I really like the cinematography for Batman in this movie. And I know most of that credit goes to this movie's cinematographer, but just stuff like seeing the Batwing silhouette on the face of the moon, and the slick ass seamless transitions with the Batwing, Batman's gear all scattered on the ground with blood on the floor after a tough fight, it's all just so cinematic looking. The last thing that gets me excited for Andy's Batman movie is the inclusion of Batman's son, Damian Wayne. I found this out shortly after seeing The Flash, but I didn't know Andy directed the It movies. I like the first one a lot, the second one's okay, but the reason I brought this up is because I love all the kids in those movies. Their performances are so great, they're just a bunch of snarky little assholes, and that's exactly what Damian Wayne is. The kids in the It movies are super funny, but they really have some good emotional moments, and that's exactly what Damian needs. Damian needs to be a snarky asshole with comedic undertones, but he also needs to have a softer side under that deadly outer shell so he can connect with Bruce and the rest of the Bat family. And based off the It movies, I think Andy could bring that to Damian. So, we have The Flash basically showcasing what Andy could do with Batman, and you have him showing he can handle kids well in the It movies. And peep, I'm not saying this new Batman movie is going to be a guaranteed success just because Andy's attached to it, but at the very least, it has a good foundation with Andy being the director of it. I don't know, man, the DCU's future is just very bright in my eyes. We have James Gunn being the head of all this, someone with a proven track record and someone that has love for these characters. We have him also making Superman Legacy, which I was excited for already, with some amazing casting choices, or at the very least interesting ones, that tease a wider, already established DC universe has me very excited. And for now, we have a promise of having a bigger focus on writing, which for me is everything. Because you could have the worst CGI imaginable, but if the writing is 100% solid, it would still bother me, but I would be a lot more forgiving. And for now, we have James Mangold doing Swamp Thing, which for now they say has a bigger focus on the character and not necessarily what he sets up for the greater DC universe. So it seems we're gonna get movies that have a greater focus on characters, mixed with movies that are more universe building, which I think is great. But all of this to me is just laying down the groundwork to start the DCU off with very good foundation and structure. Again, not saying this movie or this universe is gonna be 100% successful, and any of this can change at any moment, like we see with a lot of movies. For instance, Andy could be very easily taken off the new Batman movie, making this whole video pointless. But fuck it, we ball. I won't sit up here and act like there aren't some worrying things and that everything is just 100% gravy. So far, the things that worry me are how the interconnectedness of live action and animation is gonna work, and if they're gonna be able to pull that off smoothly. And the heavy rumors of Gal Gadot still playing Wonder Woman, making her the only member of the Trinity not being recasted, it's just gonna feel weird because every member of the Justice League is gonna be fresh, new faces. Like, if they were gonna do that, why not just keep Henry Cavill? I just can't wait until all the old stuff is out so we can just focus on the new universe, because all of this is lowball confusing. But besides those things, all of the previously mentioned stuff just makes me so excited for the next 10 years. But that's pretty much it. Subscribe if you're new, drop a like if you liked the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.